Welcome to Behind the Podium, Unveiling the Coach. Problem solvers have problems too. So here at Behind the Podium, I, Jared Cohen, and my co-host Alexander Ellis discuss the struggles, philosophies, demands, and practices of the coach, or said more broadly, health and wellness practitioner. To provide quality coaching is to enhance someone's life in an everlasting and unfolding way. This is not easy and requires a lot of due diligence and self-mastery on the part of the coach to be able to perform. So without further ado, join us as we dig deeper into the depths of the coach's mind. Welcome back, or welcome to Behind the Podium, Unveiling the Coach. I am Jared Cohen with my partner in crime,
Alexander Ellis.
And today we are going behind the podium with a favorite, familiar guest of the show, Miss Amy Mantis. You may remember her from, I don't know the episode number. But
a few episodes ago.
If you haven't listened to that first one, definitely go check that out. Amy is an integral part of the Behind the Podium experience, as the music you are listening to in the beginning and the end is her on the strings of the guitar. And in addition to Behind the Podium, that name was a brainchild of Amy. So we're very indebted to Amy.
I'm basically your producer.
Yeah.
I was going to say, this is the Amy Show. Welcome.
I'm your EP, your executive producer.
And therefore, we love getting the opportunity to chat with her, and just want to dig in deeper about the similarities between the musician and the coach, and what are some of those takeaways that we can think about for the coach being a performer in and of him or herself.
Yeah. Always happy to chat with the two of you.
Yeah. And actually, Jared, speaking of this performer idea, this is something that I've really been dealing with as of late. If as coaches, you might be like, well, I'm not a performer. I just show up and tell people to exercise. But we all have our kind of crappy days. Where maybe we don't want to go teach, and yet you still have to show up and put on a happy face and make the people laugh and have their money be spent, worthwhile. And the coaching profession and teaching profession, in my opinion, is just as much a performance art as is music.
100%.
Although perhaps
Absolutely.
a little bit less, hand-eye coordination.
I don't know, if you're teaching yoga, that's pretty hand-eye coordinated.
I can just talk you through it, though. I don't have to, actually hit chords or hit a note.
You'd be surprised how little time I spend in my lessons playing guitar. If I'm teaching, I probably only take it out for my more advanced students, because the idea is to not show them how to play it, so they have to rely on a visual, but to have them rely on their own brain and their papers that are in front of them in my directions, versus having to have somebody there all the time to be like, play it like this.
Right.
No, play it like that.
That's very interesting. I remember my guitar teacher in high school. When I first met him, I only had one guitar teacher prior to that, and I was used to his format where I'm sitting next to him and he also has a guitar. And then when I met the new guitar teacher that I had in high school, and he showed up and didn't have a guitar, I was like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah.
And that was his whole point. It's like, look, like I don't need the guitar.
No, I bring mine with me only because I feel like my students' parents would be like, where's your guitar? But I don't need to bring it. I could do all my lessons without a guitar.
Yeah.
Which, when I first started teaching, I definitely couldn't do that. That was a learned experience. So, and very beneficial.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and what was that process like? Was there just one day where you were like, I don't need my guitar anymore?
I transcended. I can play music with my mind.
No, I have my boss, the school that I teach for, Chris Poon. He's the owner of Merry Melody Music Academy in Westwood, Massachusetts.
Wow.
And he taught me, like, we had like a 3-hour hangout one day of just how to teach kids, because I've been teaching adults and older people, which is a whole different process. Like, you can teach an adult differently than you can teach a 9-year-old. So with the kids, he wanted it to be less reliant upon like the teacher and more reliant upon the topics at hand. So he taught me, like, you can show them, a couple of times maybe, but don't play it first. Like, have them do it. If they're struggling, then you can show them kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
I also think it goes back to something we talked about with Sam Smith with the Tony Robbins episode, where it's like he mentioned how all the things that Tony Robbins would do at Unleash the Power Within, you could access that on YouTube, but yet you still pay to go. And so to me, it makes me think of what you're saying. It's like, man, there are so many YouTube videos where someone has a guitar and is showing you how to play this thing. And so if you're doing that in front of them, it's kind of like, well, this isn't unique or different than that experience that I could otherwise have.
And there are some cases, like with my own lessons, like when I go see Lyle, we're playing all the time because it's a different kind of approach where I have the technique. Not to say like I have it all down, but I've got a good base of it at this point. So if I want to learn how to do like chicken picking, I need to have Lyle be like, here's how you do it. And then he'll do it. And then I'll be like, I'll try. He's like, nope, try it again. Nope, try it like this. Nope, keep that there. Nope. There you go. So, it's definitely much more of a tactile process with him and me, because my knowledge of music is much deeper than my average students is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's also a level of passion too. Like, I think I talked about this last time, but I realized that after I started teaching guitar lessons, I was like, oh wait, you're not all like me and obsessed with the guitar. Like, this isn't what you do for 5 hours a day after school. This is like half an hour, one day a week, maybe. So you have to really change your approach to that. Whereas with Lyle and me, we can go all day about certain things. Like, we can talk for an hour about like one note, and it's awesome. But do that with like my 11-year-olds, they'll be like, I want to play Heathens, man. Like, calm down. So
yeah, that's really true. It makes me think of this whole different category of a coach's coach, right? Or like a musician's music teacher, and like I have that experience with another guest we've had on the show, Ben Ramos, where like I know he enjoys me as a patient more than others because like we have this shared interest. Shared pursuit, and so like he'll talk to me differently than he'll talk to other patients in terms of like the level of vernacular he'll use about the body, and then also it's that similar thing where like we can geek out about things that another patient like wouldn't care about. They're just looking to get out of pain, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I know that you have a new album.
I do.
Out. Please.
It's already out.
Spotify, iTunes.
Spotify and iTunes. It'll be in physical form April 14th. I'm not sure when this is going to air. So at that point, it might already be out in physical copy. If not, it will be out April 14th.
Very cool. And what's your band is the space between?
Yeah, but
music,
no the.
Right?
Just
no
space between. No the. We dropped the to avoid comparisons to the Dave Matthews song, The Space Between, which is a great song. But we're like, we don't want to do that. And it's also, I'm a big fan of Eagles, not the Eagles, but Eagles. So that's actually a Jared idea. We were talking about that. He's like, you should make it an homage to the Eagles, because they are a band that doesn't have the, although they are often put with the, because it's easier to say I like the Eagles, and this is I like Eagles. Like, what does that mean? Like,
right.
Or the band. So. But yeah, so the band is called Space Between. You can go to spacebetweenmusic.com to check it out. And the record's called Where the Mountain Should Be. And as Jared pointed out, it's on Spotify, it's on iTunes, it's on Google Play, it's on Amazon. Wherever you can find digital music, it is there. SoundCloud, Bandcamp. That's about it that I can think of.
Yeah.
But it's
many websites I've never heard of. I'm like, oh, wow.
Yeah, there are so many places to put your music out now that it's overwhelming in a lot of ways. It's like, which avenues do you pick? And every band has a different, I guess, platform or approach. Like, I think that we're best as a live band. That's where I think we shine the most. We don't do well as an internet band per se, whereas some bands do really well as an internet band. They thrive on blogs in certain playlists and websites. But when you go see them live, it's kind of like, oh, well, okay, cool. But when it's the other way around, where it's like you got a good record, but you're really good live, it's like it's a lot harder now to reach people because people don't go to shows as much anymore. As far as like the smaller tier shows, they're still going to go see John Mayer. They're still going to go see Ed Sheeran. They're going to go see the big acts, but they're only going to go once or twice a year because tickets are a lot of money. But it's just so hard to get the word out, even on like a local level, to get people to go to your shows. So there are many platforms, and musicians are often early adopters of social media stuff because we're like, we got to get our music out there, man. And this is cool. We can use Instagram to do that. Cool. We can use Tumblr. Cool. We can use this.
MySpace was a huge catalyst or a huge resource for musicians early on. Like, and I think almost, I don't even know if that was MySpace's intention, but I think musicians quickly sort of saw that opportunity, and then MySpace like accommodated that.
Yeah, I can't say which came first, the MySpace player or the musician trying to use MySpace, but they definitely catered to that towards the end of it. I had a MySpace music page back in the day. It's still up there. You can find it. And
MySpace is still a thing? What?
I found Jared's old band up there.
It's true. I think it's still there.
I think we might need to link to that in the show notes.
His Amazing Worms was Jared's band. I believe
The Amazing Worms?
Shecky.
Yeah, Amazing Worms.
Shecky and the Amazing Worms.
Wow.
I'm Shecky.
That's so interesting. But you know what, Amy, as you are talking, I'm thinking, trying to think of parallels. And one thing that I'm doing as a coach, and I imagine there's many people out there doing similar things, is producing online content.
Yeah.
As a way to supplement my business.
Right.
And, as you're saying, oh my gosh, there's so many places where you can put music. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, there's so many places where I can put promos for my courses.
Right.
But an interesting difference, and I'm curious your thoughts about this, in the fitness space, many people, and I thought this way too, they're like, well, I don't want to give anything away for free. I don't want to give anything out because I want them to buy it.
Right.
But in the music space, it's like, I'm not going to buy anything unless I hear the track,
Right.
So
right.
How do you balance between what you're giving away and then what is, ends up being on the album that they have to pay to get? Or is it all out there?
It's all out there. At this point in time, it's all out there, mainly because music streaming is going to be the savior of musicians. A lot of them are still combating it, but in the long run, it's a better business model because you get paid every time someone listens to your song. If you buy a CD, I get paid one time. If you play my song on Spotify, I get paid. It's pennies on the dollar, but I get paid every time.
Every time.
So, and same thing with YouTube too. Like you get paid. I'm not sure if you get paid every time with YouTube or with a certain threshold, but the idea is with streaming is that you get paid every time. Even though you get paid like 0.004 cents, it adds.
Right.
Justin Bieber's making bank on Spotify.
Guaranteed.
Guaranteed.
0.004 cents.
Those songs are getting 500 million plays. So.
And also, this online streaming has made it so that you can just upload your music and take off.
Mm-hmm. You never know what's going to catch. The music industry is very fickle in that, where it's like, right now, you look around and I see a lot of electronic-based music, and that's not what we do. So it's kind of like we're like the black sheep, but you watch in 5 or 6 years what's going to turn around. It could be guitars, it could be piano, it could be anything. You don't know what's going to happen. So
I cannot listen to another 5 years of EDM. Can't do it.
So it's a matter of you can't follow the trends in music, because if you do, you just get you never get you kind of get on the wave. Then it's like, oh, wave's gone. Get on the wave, up, wave's gone. Instead of just being able to ride your own wave.
Yes.
So, look at, like the Grateful Dead. They're one of those bands that truly rode their own wave, and they still are with Dead & Company. They just like, well, we do this. If you like it, great, come on board. If you don't, that's cool too. We're still going to keep doing it. That's kind of my philosophy is like, I do this, the band does this. If you like it, great, come on board. If you don't, we're still going to keep doing it.
Mm-hmm. You got to do you all the time, because that authenticity is what people are craving, because there's so much BS and fakeness on the internet.
Yeah, and then when you see you live, it's apparent. And then now, based on that live connection, that authenticity, okay, now like, hey, I'm back at home, I want more of this. Now I'm gonna search for you.
Right. Yeah. We currently have 18 listeners on Spotify.
Well, you're gonna get more. I'm sorry, I haven't added yet.
We're gonna get 19. We're gonna have dozens.
Woo.
No, it's one at a time though.
You mean followers, though, right?
Yeah, you can see how many people listen to your music on Spotify.
Well, because what's interesting is, I mean, it's just certain things like that where I only recently, like a week ago, started actually following artists on Spotify. I never did that. Just like on a lot of social media, I don't often like things, but that's not a reflection of me actually not liking it. You know,
Right.
It's just like my brain doesn't. I don't know. I've just never. My brain like didn't make that connection, and it's not automatic for me. So I just always like think about that as the metric isn't perfect in terms of like not. Just because we don't have that many people following doesn't mean people aren't liking or they're not listening.
Yeah. It's interesting because if you look at some bands that are on tour, I'm like, how are you on tour on this massive tour and you have like 5 followers? Like that seems to be counterintuitive, but at the same time, if the right person hears you, then you're in. So it's you can't look at those things as an artist and be like, well, why is this band on there? Why am I not? It's like, well, it's just because you're not. Like, it's nothing to do with you. It has to do with the fact that band happens to say they're good. They happen to be good, and they happen to be in the right place at the right time. To a certain extent, that's not always the case, but because you can't rely on that, otherwise you're just your life is a total gamble, and that's not a healthy way to live. But there are certain bands that is like, how did this happen so fast? And then I talked to somebody, it's like, oh yeah, well, Tom Petty saw them play, and he liked them, and he got him a deal. So like that happened.
Right.
So
totally,
it can be frustrating to hear, but at the same time, it's like, oh, cool, what happened to them? Why can't it happen to me? At the end of the day, the music industry is run by 2 things: people and emails.
Well, hey, fitness is the same thing.
Right? It's the same thing. I was talking to a friend of mine who's on tour right now, a self-booked tour. She was in Australia when I was talking to her, and she's in Japan now. It's all done on her own. So how awesome is that?
Especially now with Amazon, like and self-publishing and being able to create that through Amazon.
Yeah.
So kind of the other side of your point, the time that it takes, and then the virtue of patience that really has to be has to be in play in order to actually sustain the timeline. I'd like you to talk about your experience in that you recorded this EP a year ago.
Yes.
And then it literally took a year for it to now
start to finish
to be out. What was that like for you? And also, is it weird in that for some people they're experiencing it for the first time, whereas like you've actually in some ways kind of moved on from these songs. Like you've written so many new songs, and where you are creatively is very different than what the tangible reflection is.
Yeah, normally it wouldn't take this long. And my producer, whom I love dearly, Brian Packer, I love him. He had a very, very, very busy 2016. He got married. He had his dog had some health issues. Dog is fine now. Diesel's all thriving. And so a lot of that was out of my hands as far as the time goes. And while people were more frustrated about it than I was, because I'm like, look, when it's done, it's going to sound awesome. I don't mind waiting if it's going to sound really good. It would be one thing if I waited a year and I was like, Brian, this is awful. What did you do? But it's like, Brian, this is amazing. Like, I don't care that it took that long, because I'd rather have a really great product at the end of the day that took a year to come out than, a half-baked product that took 3 months to come out. So it doesn't bother me. And the funny thing is, like, the band only really became a cohesive, solid unit, I would say, in November. We started hanging out in April and May of last year, but we only kind of started to gel at the end of this year. So my thought was that by the time that the record comes out, I'll have a band, we'll have played a lot of shows, everything will be in place for that to exist and to be like, here we are, here's our product, you can listen to us and come see us live. So it all lined up well, even though it took a lot longer. And you have to have patience to be a musician. It's part of the game, because with the exception of a few instrumentalists and singers, no one comes out of the gate screaming on the guitar. It just doesn't happen. You have to I was gonna say slobber, but you have to like slog over it. At least I did.
Slobber too.
Slobber too, yeah, you know. Well, I often end up bleeding on my guitar because I play really aggressively, and then my fingers rip open. And
That's happened to me too.
Yeah, it's just like blood everywhere. But you just have to have that patience to develop the craft and the technique, and you have to really, really love it. And if you don't, you're just going to get burnt out. But if you love music with all of your being, no matter how long it takes, at least in my experience, you're still going to keep doing it. And you're like, I wanted the same thing since I was 13, 14 years old. I have my journals when I was 14, 15, and it says, you know, I want to be in a rock and roll band. What am I in now? I'm in a rock and roll band, and I'm still loving it with every fiber of my being. We have a show on Saturday, April 8th in Vermont. So we're rehearsing Thursday night and Friday night. We got some new songs we got to learn, and then we're going to go out to Vermont and have a great time, and then come back down and play the next weekend in Boston, and then we're playing again in Boston later on in the month with my friend and bromance partner as woman, Julia Mark, who is just the greatest. So you just have to have that excitement and enthusiasm built into you already. Otherwise, it's just not, you can't sustain. Not possible.
Mm-mm.
At least not for very long. And I think it even happens to some artists that get really big. Avicii had this happen to him where he's a DJ, or he stopped touring. He's like, I can't do it anymore. And he was like 25. And he was like the biggest act out there.
Wow.
There's a letter that I'll send to you that he wrote about that. Just about him getting burnt out. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Fascinating.
And I think too, and you're saying this, it's like, yeah, you have to have passion and love what you do, but it's still work.
It's still work.
It's still hours on your craft and tool. And I mean, you haven't even talked about the process of what it's like, you know, booking gigs and writing songs and, you know, picking the final tracks for a CD. And so, you know, that passion is what gets you out of bed in the morning. Like, okay, I still have to write, you know, this many songs or do whatever, but thank God I really enjoy it.
Right. Yeah. The process for all those things is very different. Like booking a show is emails. It's emails and more emails and more emails. And then when you think you're done, no, it's even more emails. Writing a song is different for every single artist. You can ask Keith Richards how he writes, and he'll be like, I don't. The songs just come. Like, I just like, sit there with the guitar, and it's like, song appears. I think that's actually how it happens for him at this point in his life. He's just like sitting on his back porch in Connecticut, strumming away. He's like, oh, here's a song. It's all done. Cool. I tend to write in more of the way that Jackson Browne writes, and that he writes every day. Or at least when he's writing, he writes every day. I always try to find time to sit down with my guitar or just my notebook and just get something just to keep that momentum going, because writer's block is not something I believe in. I believe there are times, we talked about this before, where you get tired, but I think that you can always get something. And one of my favorite songs that I've written recently happened that exact way. I was like, I need to write a song. Just anything at all. I don't care what it is. And I wrote it, and I was like, oh, that's actually okay. And then I brought it to the band. They're like, this is good. And I'm like, yeah, it kind of is good, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And now I'm one of our set staples and one of our favorite songs to do. So that'll be on the next record for sure. And it's called Next Time We Talk. So you heard the title here first.
Hey!
Breaking news!
So one of the distinctions you're making that we've talked about before on this podcast is working on your business versus working in your business. And
it's a hard balance.
It is a hard balance. And how do you like purposefully or more deliberately distinguish between the two, or make time for one versus the other? And do you ever find that working on the business is exhausting in that the level of passion isn't there in the same way that obviously what would be when you're actually doing your craft?
I really like the business side of the music industry, more so than I think most people in my position do.
Yeah.
I don't do it begrudgingly. I do it because I enjoy doing it, because if I didn't enjoy doing it, I would just hire someone else to do it. Like, I don't want to do it forever per se. I would like to have a manager, but at this point, I don't know how much I have to manage kind of thing. It's one of those things where, I thoroughly enjoyed that. I went to school for music business. It was guitar and music business. So I have never been one to shy away from that. But the hard part for me is like, once I get going on it, I don't want to stop. Like on either end of it, if I'm playing guitar, I just want to keep going for as long as I can. And the same thing with the business side. If I'm looking up places to go play, I'll do that for hours, for better or worse. And oftentimes late into the night, or I'm like, I need to stop doing this. And I'm so wound up and excited about it that I have to keep going. Yeah. Or like if I'm researching managers or agents or whatever it is to try to, just to talk to them. I'll like last night where I was texting you, midnight and I have to go to bed, but I'm too excited about this to go to bed right now. So it's the hard part for me is I'm not good at changing gears. Yeah. I'm really good at getting into gear. It's just hard for me to get out of that and be like, okay, now go do this. Right. That's my I'm not good at A being things. It's like everything has to be this right now versus everything has to be that later. What my ideal situation is, do one day of focusing on the business and the next day do it of being in the business. Right. But then it's like, if I want to learn a new song, I'm like, oh, well, I'll just go learn the song real quick. 3 hours later, I'm still, playing the song. So that for me is the hardest part of where do I break off. So I try to be deliberate about it, but I just get too excited sometimes and I can't stop myself.
So can you talk more about your approach in your reach outs and so you've done your research and I think that's part of the issue with research too, especially in this day and age, the internet, it just becomes its own black hole. So it is so very hard to shift gears, and then and also you kind of reach the end of whatever that road may be, and you're just like, oh man, I'm overwhelmed with all these different types of reach outs, and how do I now decide which is more worthwhile, and what might that initial email look like, and have you figured things out along the way of like how long it should be, how short, things not to say? What's your experience been like?
Well, with some things, like reaching out to blogs, the shorter the better, I find. And if you can plug in something about the blog that you like, you're more apt to get a response. Now, that being said, my band's not a blog band, as I talked about. We don't do well in the blogosphere, per se. I would like us to, but it's not a priority. I was looking at my friends' bands who are doing well now, and I'm like, they didn't have anything on blogs, so okay, we can do without that mode. That being said, I'll still spend a little bit of time reaching out to some blogs. The booking emails I find are the most important for us at this point because we got to play more. The more we're going to become a better band, the more that we play. So when booking in Boston, it's a lot easier because we're from here. So I can be like, hey, I'm going to want to play a show with Lyle Brewer and Julia Mark, and can we set this up? And here are our available dates. And I know a lot of the people in this town now, so I can it's a lot easier there. When going out of town, it's a little bit harder because you don't have anybody to go see you. Now, we're playing in Vermont on Saturday, and we love Vermont. I love Vermont so much, and Vermont really likes us. So we played there one time, this place we were playing called Manhattan Pizza. We played there in December, and we had a really good reception. And so I emailed them again, like, yeah, come back whenever you want to come back. We loved having you. Great. So that one's like a done deal now. So we have a show with them in April, well, this weekend, and then a show with them again in August because they're like, we like you, come back up. Here are our dates that we have available. So that's really good. With newer venues, sometimes you don't get a response right away. So it's like, okay, how long do I wait? Yeah. Do I wait 3 days? Do I wait a week? Do I wait 2 weeks?
Always a tough question.
Right, because these things are very time sensitive. Like, I want to book a show in June. Right. I have to do that now. Yep. And if I wait until to hear back from them until May, it might not work out on our schedule because we're always trying to book shows. So I'm trying to book a show for Boston in August. We don't have anything on the books yet. So I've emailed two of my friends being like, hey, can we set something up? I haven't heard back from them yet. But it's like, if I hear back from one of them, that'll be great. If I hear back from both, it's like, well, you got to make a choice. So the sooner you do it, the better off you are. But it just takes a lot of emails. Yeah. And as for the format for those, like, send them your record, talk to them about where you played, be nice to them. Don't make it too long. Although, with one exception, we're going to be featured in a blog in Boston called Redline Roots in a couple of weeks. And they wanted to say, what makes your story unique? And I'm like, you got a minute? And just wrote this super long email. When they got back, I was like, yeah, great. Well, we'll feature you, after April 10th. So I'm like, all right, so the long ones can work, but only in the right setting.
Yeah.
And only if you want that. I emailed the company recently with some questions like, we loved your email, like, sorry for the long one back. And I'm like, sorry for the long reply back. Give me more of the long reply back.
Yeah.
I don't want a short one. Give me all the details.
Totally.
So
totally.
It's very subjective as far as that aspect goes. But I find that just being concise, polite, and understand that they're very busy because they're people.
Yeah. Right.
It's hard to remember that, you're talking to a computer, but you're talking to somebody else on the other side of that computer.
Yeah.
And they have a life, and they've got things to do, and, bills to pay and whatnot. So everything has to be filtered through. This is a very human thing that's happening, not just digital to, algorithm to robot kind of thing. It's, I'm emailing you as a human being. You've got your own life. I've got mine. Hopefully we can meet in the middle somewhere.
Speaking of Alex,
I was just going to say, the worst thing they can say is no.
Exactly. I have made many a friendship on a cold email because it's like, well, if they say no, they just say no. Fine, you move on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so I was just going to add to that. Do you add, like, as it relates to the human aspect, do you add a component of picking up the phone and calling? Do you ever try that before email?
They don't really like that. They typically want you to email first, and like if you don't get a response after like 5 emails, then probably call them up. But these days, the booking agent at any given venue is never really there. They're all doing it remotely, so you could call the restaurant and be like, "Hey, can I apply you to like email this person?" So
right.
it's a circle of email.
Yeah. I definitely prefer the phone call.
Nobody does phone calls anymore.
I know.
It's so cool.
It's much more immediate, and I feel like you get a lot more done. But it's become what's the word I'm looking for? Like just an absentee medium now because email is just so. It's just easier.
But does it ever? Well, so I guess maybe a different order of operations. Does it ever like get to a certain point in the email where it's like, like why don't call me at this time? Let's talk more about your band.
I think with not with booking shows, but with agents and managers and things of that nature. Yes, like I'm meeting up with my old internship boss on Wednesday, and which is tomorrow, and he owns a company called Powderfinger Promotions. They do radio promotions. And so I messaged him on Facebook like, hey, David, I was talking to Brian, and Brian used to work for David, about some stuff. And can we have meetings? Like, yeah, sure. Come in on Wednesday. So like, that will happen. That happens quite often where if you email back and forth enough and someone's interested, they'll say, yeah, come give me a call if or if you can be in the area, come meet up with me for coffee or whatever it is. But as far as like the booking show stuff, no, not in my experience anyway.
Yeah.
And especially not for perhaps that first interaction, that first reach out.
Yeah, and we're still a baby band. We're not a very big band yet. So we're going to be predominantly on emails and maybe phone calls, but mainly email. Mm-hmm. And I think even like when booking a Tom Petty tour, it's all done probably most on email because the trail, you have a paper trail.
Yeah,
you can keep track of things a lot easier than you can on the phone.
For sure. So. And I just want to add too about this whole email idea. So I'm really into social media marketing, and the news coming out now is that like Messenger, Facebook Messenger, Instagram Messenger, that's the new medium to connect with people. And I've seen that, like I've gotten a few requests for things not via email.
Right.
Because stuff gets lost in your inbox.
Yeah. I just had this conversation with somebody else earlier. I'm like, I have your email, but it's in here somewhere, but I can't find it. Huh. Yeah, I agree. And I was messaging somebody on Facebook last night. He said, call, get in touch with me tomorrow. I'm kind of busy right now, but on Facebook. So not on email. Yeah.
Yeah. And like an Instagram message, I'll respond to right away, and an email will sit there unread for 5 days.
Yeah. Cause I Instagram message you once in a while and you're right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh. I have, a love-hate with that because, like, I don't have Facebook on my phone for a reason. I have Instagram, but not Facebook. And so I don't want it to I just don't like to have that temptation there all the time because I know that my tendency is to just go down the rabbit hole for far, far too long. Just scrolling aimlessly. It's like, oh, this is kind of fun. Oh, I should go practice. Oh, but look at this. Oh, but look at that. Oh, I should, do this. I'm like, no. So that's why I took it off the phone. So I am leery about that, but I also don't think that things have to be as immediate as we make them out to be in most cases.
Yeah.
Ugh, no.
Yeah.
So the urgency that Facebook Messenger implies is just kind of like, okay, fine, but I'll write you back tomorrow. And they can see when you read the message. I don't like that.
Yeah.
Receipts are not my jam.
I don't think you can turn that off. I know you can turn it off on the phone.
The phone, yeah. It's funny how, like, one way it is, though. Like, I don't want someone else to know, but, like, I would like to know if they've read it.
I have the same thing.
I've experienced that, too, in just as it relates to text, right, where email I'll kind of sit on more because I have this context of, this is more of a formal mode of conversation.
Yeah.
And so I'm like waiting to block the time to sit down and put my thoughts together in a more formal manner, however I'm leading myself to believe that may be, versus a text. There's more of this sense of like, oh, I'll just, I'm kind of writing this in transit.
Right.
As opposed to needing like a stationary block of time.
Right.
And then I've heard people that I've communicated before with over email that maybe have had a harder time getting back. They're like, just send me a text, like.
Yeah, for sure.
So just kind of that difference.
For me, my experience with texting and emailing people is that if it's something that I have a lot to say about, I'll maybe email them. Like, even people that I could text, no problem. But like with Brian, who I talk to on almost a daily basis, it's more like I talk at him because I don't get a lot of responses back just because he has a very busy job. And so I'm like, I'm just going to keep texting you, or like, I'm just going to email you all my thoughts because it's like 5 paragraphs long. So it all depends upon the person. And I would never just text someone randomly that I don't know.
Yeah,
but
of
I
course.
would email them.
Right. That makes sense too.
Though.
I take that back. I did randomly text someone that I didn't know because I needed a place to stay for the band in Vermont. And one of my friends like, text this guy. I'm like, okay. So I texted him. He's a sailing buddy of mutual sailing buddies of mine. And so he's like, yeah, of course, no problem. But like, I did cold text him. So I lied. But that was more of a personal thing versus a business thing.
And yet, same thing. These are all interesting distinctions because email, more appropriate for the cold initiation, and then social media, I guess, being sort of more of an in between because how many people are this whole like social media? I feel like is primarily dominated with interaction between people that have never actually met,
Yeah.
And same thing with like, liking someone's post or, tagging someone else in someone else's thing. It's like there's this weird dimension of connectivity that is very one-dimensional.
Right.
And I guess some of the acceptance of that doesn't exist in other mediums.
Yeah. It's about, I find email still is my go-to just because it's appropriate for all situations.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
Yeah.
I want to kind of circle back to the process of crafting and building the album because it was such a long-term project.
Mm-hmm.
And I find in my own business with some of the projects and courses and things that I'm working on that, maybe you get started and then you're like, oh, I'm bored with it. So how did you keep your motivation up for a year of that process?
Well, the process began in earnest probably, I would say even in May of 2015. Brian and I were like, let's do a record together. It's like, come out to LA, we'll record, we'll do an EP. I'm like, great, I'm all about that. So it took us probably like legitimately 9 months of just logistics to make it into the studio.
Wow.
Between the studio schedule, his schedule, my schedule, the people that we hired to play, their schedule. And then we also had to, figure out the songs prior to going into the studio because how this worked this time was I didn't have the band yet. The band didn't exist except for Wells, but he couldn't come to LA because he could only come for like a weekend and the tickets were just astronomical. They were like $700 round trips.
my gosh.
know it was spring break. So that's what really kicked it off. But like, I can go to California from Boston for $350, $400. That's normal. But $700, I'm like, okay, it's for the record, I'll do it. But so Wells couldn't make it up for that. So we had to, Brian and I has probably spent, I would say from November of 2015 through February of 2016, just picking the songs. We had a Google Doc, a spreadsheet of, song title, song key, beats per minute, that's how fast it is, reference tracks, so like, does it sound like this Rolling Stones song? Is it Led Zeppelin? Is it Fleetwood Mac? What can we relate this to? Brian's thoughts, Amy's thoughts.
Wow, that's very organized.
Yeah, that's on my email to you about our trip. Like, that I run a tight ship.
Well, it's just cool. Like, I mean, I've never thought about, like, the process of making a song, like, and it being so so deliberately detailed. Thought of in, like, these different categories of composition.
Storytelling.
Yes. Yeah.
So then we had, the doc probably had, I would say, like 10 possible songs. We wanted to do 5. So we had to narrow it down from those 10 to those 5. And that wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be, because the songs that, like, I knew that I wanted to do were just so apparent that they were the, quote, better songs, unquote, than the ones that didn't make the cut. Only because I'd played them more, I liked them more, they fit together better. Like, not they have to be a cohesive unit anymore, because we don't listen to music as an album per se. We listen to it song by song. So you could have, like, a reggae song, and then you could have a hard rock song. It would still be okay. But these songs, if you listen to them, they're all the same family. Even though they were written, the first song on the record is the oldest song on the record. That was written in 2013, the spring of 2013. And then the last song on the record was written in spring of 2015. So these songs have been living with me for a long time. And I just needed to get them out. Like, I don't care. They have to get out of my system. They've been here for too long. So that was that process. And then in the studio, we had the band hadn't heard the songs. Well, I think they may have heard the demos, but they listened to the songs twice, off they go. And it was amazing to watch them. Like,
wow.
They heard them twice. We played them like 3 or 4 times total.
That's cool.
That was it. Yeah. These guys are really good. Adam Popick on bass, piano, and organ, and then Nate Laguza on drums and percussion. And Brian also played guitar too, just little guitar parts here and there. So that part was the easy part. Like, being in the studio, that was a one-day thing. We had 12 hours of a lockdown. We just got all the basics done. So drums, bass, basic guitar tracks, organ, piano, and percussion. Basically everything but the vocals and the lead guitar parts, because we could do that at Brian's house. Because recording vocals doesn't need a big room. Recording drums needs a big room. And also, you can't do it in a residential neighborhood. So for Brian lives in LA. He lives in Van Nuys. So, like, you can't have a home studio in Van Nuys. It just doesn't work out to have
your neighbors would call the cops on you so quick.
Right. So that's not going to happen. So I spent a week out there with him. We did probably like a vocal a day, more or less. We had 5 songs, so 5 vocals. And some songs were really easy to get out. Some songs took me a lot of work. And also, that was my first time singing on a record, because prior to this, I always had a singer. Because I'm like, I'm not a singer. I'll just have somebody else do it. I don't want to do that. But then it's like, well, if they keep quitting, you got to take it upon yourself to do it. So that experience as a vocalist was one of the most pivotal moments of my singing career, if I have a singing career. Like that, the before and after of that is just, it's night and day, just because of how much I had to use my voice and not overwork it, but also be able to sing for 3 hours a day and to get that emotion out of it. And just, there was a lot going into that really helped me get to a new level as a vocalist. There's still, 17,000 to go, but that was one of those points where it's like, okay, I was here before and now I'm here. How do I get to here? How do I get to there? So, and then after that, Brian, did his thing. And what Brian does as a producer is he also is an engineer. So he mixes the songs. There's recording, there's mixing, and then there's mastering. So recording is when you're in the studio just getting all the raw data, more or less. Mixing is what makes a song sound good. Mastering is what makes a song sound shiny and radio ready. That's like the nuts and bolts of it. There's a lot more that goes into that, but what Brian will do with any song that he has is he'll, listen to all 5 takes of one song and pick the best drum part. And then he'll go pick the best bass part, and then pick the best guitar parts, and then pick the best vocals. And he can edit them. Right, it's like a puzzle. You can edit them because digital music now, Pro Tools, which is a software that lets you see every track individually, versus it being literally on like a tape reel, where you had to literally cut and paste the tape back together.
Right.
Now you can
Wow.
just copy, you can pick, I want these 4 bars to be here. You can do that. It's magic. It
So
also makes for decision making to be very difficult, because you can literally never
Too many
be done.
choices.
Yeah.
Right. So it's about finding that balance. Like, I was recording for my friend Julia Mark about a month ago now. We were talking about this, and her producer's like, yeah, it's great, but it also is terrible because you can never make a choice.
Right.
It's like, well, this one's really good, that one's really good, that one's really good, that one's good too. So it's a matter of picking one and going with it, because at the end of the day, they're all going to sound pretty good. So Brian did that, and normally it wouldn't take him a year to do that, but just due to several things happening in his life all at once, got a little backed up. But again, I knew it was going to sound really great. So I'm like, I'm just going to wait for it. I'm not going to pressure him. That's not cool. He doesn't need that. He knows that I want it done. Like, he was fully aware that I would like it done as soon as possible, but he also knew that I'm willing to wait, because I've waited this long. What's another month? I waited this long. What's another, 3 weeks? I've waited this long. What's another, however long it is.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing goes back with playing guitar. It's like, I waited this long to be at this level. Like, what's, I'm still going to keep practicing. I'm going to get better. Oh, in the meantime, like with the record not being out, I had time to get better and to know those songs more in a band setting versus just a solo acoustic setting, and to write new ones for our next record. So it all adds up. And that patience thing is just something that apparently I've had for a long time. My parents are always like, you're really patient. I'm like, I'm not patient. Like, no, you teach us how to use the computer. You're patient. Like,
Yeah.
hallmark
Oh,
of
yeah, that requires a lot of patience.
helping your parents out with technology.
Yeah,
It's just like,
I just had
and
that
doing,
this weekend.
yeah. I felt telling Mom, like, Mom, how do you copy and paste? And she's like, oh, I don't remember. I'm like, Mom, you've been doing this for like 17 years. Like, how do you copy and paste? She's like, oh, I think she knows it now. She's like, I got it. It's Command C and Command V. I'm like, yes, it took you 10 years to learn that. Progress.
Yeah, it's pretty good, because other people go, well, I go up to edit.
I still do that.
I've outed you, Jared. I've outed you. But
Jared.
Amy, I mean, to hear about the prep work, also, I mean, the spreadsheets, that's amazing. And then also, by the time you get in, I mean, I'm thinking, oh, recording an album. Oh, you're just in the studio and you're recording. That's just one tiny blip in the lifetime of an album.
And usually, like in the case of mine, where it's a low budget thing, it's a 1 day thing, maybe 2 days. But with somebody who's a big band, they can spend days, months, years in the studio. But the average artist these days that's just like a tiny little. Here's like your timeline. It's like that's here, and then you're all the way here when the record comes out. So it's a very long distance, and it's like just one little. It's like one little hurdle. If you're running the 40-yard dash, you have 7 hurdles to get over. That's the first one. Then you got to go do the next one. And the next one. And by the time you get to the end, it's kind of like, oh, I forgot about that first hurdle. That was so long ago. So,
and all the preparation, too, makes it so that when you walk into the studio for that time that you've booked and paid for, that you can be as efficient as possible.
Exactly.
You know exactly what needs to be done.
Which is why I love working with Brian, because he's been at this for a long time. And he and I are really good friends, like, outside of this. Like, if we just had like a working relationship, it would be great too. But since we're really close friends, like, it makes sense for me to go work with him on whenever I can. And also, like, with the next record, it'll be the band as a unit going to Los Angeles to record it. So we're gonna spend, a lot of July. We want to go in August. That's our plan. We haven't finalized it yet, but the plan is to go out in August for 5 or 6 days and do a record. We're gonna, just spend a lot of July working on, like, we're playing in the studio, because it's different. You play live differently than you play in the studio, because when you're playing in the studio, you use what's called the click track, which is a metronome, that has this lovely little sound.
Ah, the metronome.
Yes, the metronome. This is the musician's best friend. This is the most important tool you can have as a player for anything, because this does not let you hide. It tells you all the flaws. And the reason why you record to a click track is so you can edit things and you know where you are, like, when you're editing them. So everything is the same rhythm.
Right, yeah, everyone's on the same beat.
Yeah, yeah. It's just kind of like when you're training, you have certain things you have to do every time. Same thing with this. You got to use this every time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's different than, like, when you're playing live, you don't use this. So
Right.
things get a little more loosey-goosey, but that has its time and place. And there are some times when you will use a click track live, like Keith Moon on Won't Get Fooled Again. If you watch videos of him playing that, always has headphones on, so he can hear the synthesizer. Yeah, go watch a YouTube video of that. He always has the headphones on.
Huh, fascinating.
I think even Zach Starkey might do it now too, but yeah, there are some drummers. Even Steve Jordan, when I saw John Mayer, he had headphones on for I think it was for Believe.
Really?
So you can hear stuff better. Mm-hmm.
Well, what is he? That's also like they have like the earpiece, right?
These were actual like headphones. Yeah, John has the in-ear things. But I think I noticed he's wearing headphones. Interesting.
And so he's listening to what?
Could be a certain part of the song that he wants to hear more of. It could even be a metronome that John's like, here, play it. We're going to play at this tempo.
Huh, fascinating.
You keep this. Yeah.
So.
Well, now that we've heard so much about this album process, it is only fair that we allow the listeners to hear a piece of Where the Mountain Should Be, the first EP from Space Between.
You know it.
The song we are going to share with everyone is called Circular Road, which is the third track on...
No, it's the last track.
It's the last track. Just kidding. I was looking at...
You're looking at Spotify, yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at the first, where it says popular, and it's 1, 2, 3. Well, apparently Circular Road is the third most popular track of the EP. But yeah, it is the last track. It'll take you out, and we're going to play this just before we do our rapid fire questions.
Cool. Hope you enjoy it.
I thought it'd be easier to run. I didn't know I'd still be here. When my running was done, I'm right back where I started from. How was I to know where I was to go? This circular road has got me spinning. You know they say time heals all wounds. Well, how will I know if it's too soon to say I'm sorry I went too far, and to marvel at my scar? How was I to know where I was to go? This circular road has got me spinning.
So, with Circular Road being just heard by everyone in the world,
The whole world.
we're now gonna reacquaint you with some rapid fire questions, different than last time, but rapid fire nonetheless. And the first I'm gonna start with is there a life philosophy that you make a point to remind yourself about every day?
I don't think so, per se. I try to do things deliberately every day. Like, I try to always have that deliberate practice in the forefront of my mind and just kind of be aware of my surroundings. And I also am a believer that enthusiasm takes you everywhere you want to go. So I try to maintain that enthusiasm in everything, from teaching to writing to leading the band to whatever I'm doing. If there's not enthusiasm involved in it, it's not going to work out.
Are you pretty aware of times in which that enthusiasm will drop from what you'd consider normal?
Yeah, I've become aware of, I think it's from my meditation practice more than anything else, of like my mood shifts, even very subtly. So if I'm having like an kind of day, I'll be like, I'm just going to go watch The Great British Bake Off. Like that is the best use of my time right now, is to do this. It's not to do that, or go read a book, or go for a walk. Something to try to rejuvenate it.
And what if it happens in a moment where you can't take refuge?
Then you got to fake it till you make it again. Like we had a show not too long ago where I had that happen to me. I'm like, everything I'm playing, I'm like, this just sounds awful. I was just in a really weird headspace. And listening back, I was like, oh, that wasn't awful. So a lot of it's just in your head anyway. I'm a believer in that. The most of what's going on and like you think's happening, it's all up here. They're not going to experience that. Only you are.
Yeah.
Got it.
I mean, and I've had classes where at the end of class, I'm like, God, that was like the worst class I've ever taught in my life. And
then someone's like, I love that class.
Right. Their perception is totally different.
It's totally different. And I record all of our shows so we can have a reference point to see like what went well, what didn't go well. And mine, I'm like, oh, wow, I thought I sounded really bad, but that actually was not that bad. And then that happened with Eric at our next show. He's like, I feel like he was like, I felt like you at our last show where I was just kind of in my head the whole time. And, listening back, I sounded good. It was just, I was in a weird spot.
Yeah. We are our own worst critics, 100%.
Oh, for sure.
Is there any extracurricular education you would recommend or highly endorse, either a particular book, video, seminar? It could be even like a personal practice.
Well, in different aspects. For performing and for music, Effortless Mastery, the book by Kenny Werner. I have it on my bedside. He's a jazz musician, and he wrote this really great book about practice habits and about like performance and stuff like that. It has a whole meditation thing behind it too.
Wow.
So I recommend this to all musicians. I also recommend Seth Godin books. Like in particular, The Icarus Deception is one of my favorite Seth Godin books. That one's really great. I think it was Choose Yourself or Pick Yourself, the one that came out a couple years ago. I have it in my living room, but I can't think of the title of it. That one's really great. Just things that are not typical books you would think a musician would read, because like, I don't need to read that. I'm not in business. Like, yeah, but you are in business. You are in this. So those, like anything Seth Godin, his blog is amazing. Derek Sivers too. I like to read a lot of his stuff, and he is a musician. He went to Berkeley, so he's got a lot of relatable stuff to the average musician these days. Although he's not really playing much anymore, but he did give it a real go for a while, and he's just a very insightful person.
Started CD Baby.
Yes, which is a very large company now, and he sold it a long time ago. But other things, meditation's really been beneficial for me in the past. I started probably about 2 years ago in earnest, a year ago really in earnest, so where I do it daily. And that's just been to help me gather my thoughts, because my thoughts there's a lot of them. They just don't want to stop. The voice in my head is just like, my brain. I use Headspace.
Headspace, awesome.
Yeah. Okay. I use Headspace, and I try to do one a day in the morning, or maybe one a day in the evening as well. I also have gotten into Wim Hof. Actually got into him a little while ago. And that's been just cool literally.
Just cool.
Just cool.
Literally.
Has that, do you feel like that's really helped you with your singing?
Not really. No, I
Okay.
don't think so. I think like the meditation and stuff has helped more because singing is as much as it is physical. It's all mental.
Uh-huh.
It's all
Interesting.
mental. Like a lot of it's really counterintuitive. Like to sing loud, you don't need a lot of tension or power. You just gotta be loose and relaxed.
Yeah.
So, which is something that I'm not that great at yet. We're working on that. Rocco and me. We've been working on that for a while now. Rocco's my voice teacher. So, but Wim is just like, as somebody who likes the cold, I want to be able to, like really love the cold. So that's been cool, literally, just to go be able to like, I'm outside in a t-shirt and it's December in New England.
Oh my gosh.
That's right. You live in Southern California where it's like, oh my God, it's 50 degrees out. Today,
It's 70 right now and I have a sweatshirt on.
40, like, I think it's like in the low 40s today, and I'm wearing shorts and a sweatshirt. I could have worn pants, but I just woke up late, so I'm like, I'm just gonna wear the shorts to go to yoga.
Yeah.
No, it's raining. I'll be out and about in a little raincoat and this little hat, and I'll be good.
We'll survive, right?
We'll survive. We'll survive.
All right. Well, last one here. In the spirit of music, I'm gonna read you this quote from T.S. Eliot, and then I just want you to riff on it
Sure.
as you see fit. So the quote is, "We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time."
Well, the funny part about that quote is that Circular Road, the song that you just played, the first line and the last line are the same lyric. It starts
Yes!
and it's called Circular Road, which, the idea is it's circular, but I'm going to actually go look at the visual of that quote because there's a lot of words going on there. And you sent it to me the other night. So I'm going to cheat.
Oh, that's right.
Isn't that great too when things, just happen?
Yeah.
For a reason, you're like, oh my God, that's so cool.
It is. That was perfect. I didn't even think of that until right now. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. That all works out.
That patience aspect too.
I mean, it's music. Like I was talking to somebody about this yesterday where I was just like, I still take lessons for a reason, not because I feel like I have to, but because I really want to, because I know that there's more, even in my own basic practice, that there's more that I can get out of it than I'm currently getting out of it. And so I'll go explore that with Lyle. I'll go explore it with somebody else. I'll just go listen to the same song 1,000 times, and I'll hear something new each time because as you get more into it, you become more aware of it. And it's like, oh yeah, there are so many layers to this. And that applies to, I think, everything. Like learning how, I think like a hot topic in your world is running properly. It's like, no one knows how to run properly. We all think that we just, you get up and you do it. But it's like, no, there's so much more to this than meets the eye.
Yeah.
So you can't stop exploring. Otherwise, you just, you're doing yourself a disservice at that point because you could benefit more from the exploration.
Ryan Holiday has a great chapter in his Ego is the Enemy, talking about Kirk Hammett, the guitarist for Metallica.
Oh yeah.
And how because the original guitarist was Dave Mustaine, and after they for more PC way to say it, after they let him go, and they brought Kirk Hammett on, he like knew he really took it upon himself to say like, okay, I want to make sure I am as ready for this experience as possible, and so he then started taking guitar lessons from Joe Satriani, and here's this guy that's about to like join what was, about to become the biggest, essentially metal.
They are the biggest metal band in the world.
Yeah. And could very easily have been like, oh, I'm being chosen. I don't need, I don't need a teacher, right? But like you said, he wanted the teacher to just help him have more to bring to the table. Right.
That's cool. I haven't read Ego is the Enemy yet. It's on my list of books to read. I'm currently in the midst of Deep Work by Cal Newport, which has been awesome. A lot of really applicable stuff to all of us because it's so easy to go online these days and not get anything done.
Yes.
Yes. So that's been really cool to read about the case studies in that. And they all apply to everybody's, you might think it doesn't, but it's like, no, you can find something in that book that you can use to make your life better.
Oh, that's right.
And it might, yeah.
Cal Newport, I just remember now, that was the TED Talk you sent me. I sent it to Alex too, I believe, but that's the guy that his TED Talk is, he doesn't have a social media account.
No social media account.
And it's all,
I must have blocked that out when I thought.
And that was all, and he sort of debunks the whole thing of like, sort of debunking some of these beliefs of like, if you don't have a social media account, you won't achieve this in business, or you need social media for this, for that. And so that I just made that connection.
Part of this book that it's really cool, where he actually defends social media. He talks about it in terms of like, if you're a college freshman, Facebook is good for you because you needed to make friends. Like there are benefits to it.
Right.
His whole philosophy is like, you don't have to go all or nothing. He's got nothing because he's like, this doesn't benefit me. But for people like us, where there are some benefits, it's about reaping the benefits without, giving too much away, kind of thing.
Yeah. 100%. All right. Well, Amy, round 2 was a blast.
Pleasure.
Yes, thank you so much. And where can people find more about you and Space Between?
SpaceBetweenMusic.com is our headquarters. I have a website too that I haven't been using much recently, but that's just AmyMantis.com. And we're on Facebook as Space Between Music. We're on Twitter as Space Between Music as well, but it's between without the vowel, so just BTWN. Same thing on SoundCloud. And Instagram is Space Between Music. We're on Instagram probably the most out of all the social medias because it's on my phone. So that one I check quite a bit.
Yeah.
But the other ones I'm a little bit more ambivalent about. Also because Facebook is so weird these days with pages. It's like,
very weird.
I don't know where anything goes. Like, where do I find what I posted now?
It goes into another world where they want you to pay for people to see it. That's where it goes.
That's where it goes. So.
Okay. Awesome.
All right.
So I'll be sure all of this stuff, I mean, I've been furiously writing all of the books and apps and cool stuff that you've been mentioning. So that'll all live in the show notes. I mean, yeah, I have like 100 books now to start reading.
Yeah.
As we all do, yeah.
I do have right here to help supplement your Rob Wolf interview. So
yeah, for listeners, we actually, in addition to being our executive producer, is tasked with reading the books for future guests.
Right.
So that we
in case we don't get to them, yeah, she.
Although I have to say, it did kind of inspire me. I was like, well, shit, if Amy's reading this book and she's not going to be in this interview, I better get my act together here.
I told you, I'm your EP. Like, this is what I do.
Well, I feel like at the end of we need to fix our outro so that you do. Behind the Podium was produced by Amy Mantis in association with
Praying Mantis.
For music, rather. Praying Mantis Music is the record. My self-titled record label. Praying with an E, though. So, like, yeah.
Well, now we know. I'm so grateful for you and all your help.
I'm for you too. I love it. I'm happy to help whenever I can.
Yeah, you elevate us and you push us to work harder, even without even trying. Seriously, when I got that message from me, I was like, "Oh shit!"
We should maybe do like a live. We could, like, when you come out here, Amy, to record next, we could do like a live, an actual in-person, in-person type of podcast.
Yeah, I'd love it. And that'd be the whole band too. They'd all be out there.
Oh, yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, but in June, my mom and I are coming out, like I said, for Arroyo Seco, which is June 22nd. Well, we'll be there June 22nd through June 28th. And then I fly to Chicago to see that guy. So,
right.
And the band on his T-shirt as well.
Who's on your T-shirt? Dead and Company.
Dead and Company. Little Bears.
You guys are just too cool for me. I don't even know what you're talking about.
All right, thank you again for listening. As Amy alluded to, future episode we'll have the one and only Rob Wolf, and we will catch you next time.
And we'll have finished the book by then.
Yes.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to Behind the Podium. Unveiling the Coach. If you have enjoyed what you listened to, head over to iTunes and leave us a review. More information on each episode and the podcast in general can be found at behindthepodiumpodcast.com. We'll catch you next time.